Hey, Nicole here. So after I did the live a minute ago, I was thinking about what I was saying in there about sacred space and this time of year being challenging for some people. And I kind of wanted to do a little bit of story time because it's like, we can say those things, but with what context? And for me, I have understood firsthand the challenging emotions and sometimes difficulties that happened, during the holidays. And so I want to tell a little bit of a story that speaks to the power of place and how our spaces can hold us when we are experiencing transitions kind of in liminal spaces in between here and there, evolving, growing through things. I'm actually sitting in my meditation space, so you can see I have some of my affirmations behind me, and I put them up each day. So I'm going to try and post the guide to sacred space here, but what I want to talk about is this year is the 1 year anniversary since my divorce. My ex-husband and I decided to end our marriage about 2 years ago, and everything was finalized last December. And in that period, we were together for 8 years. And coming out of that, I had to reassess, reconnect with the new version of me that was single. She was older. She had been through some different experiences. She was wiser, stronger in a lot of ways, tender in some other ways. And what coming out of that experience, I think one of the things that really helped to steady me was coming into a new space, getting my own place again, having that space to hold me. So 2 years before the divorce was actually final, we were separated, and I had my own place, and it was different. I'd lived on my own before, single, had my own apartments, that sort of thing. But coming out of that container, that relationship, that situation was different. A long-term relationship where, you have these expectations and thinking that things are going to last a certain amount of time or change you in certain ways, and then they kind of just don't. It goes completely left in a totally different direction. And what I was able to create in the container of my apartment was safety. It was my sanctuary. It was a space where I felt held, and pardon, they're doing construction outside. So if you're hearing banging, that's what that is. It was where I could be completely vulnerable. It held my tears, it held my emotions, my heartbreak, my fears about how I was going to move forward and what that was going to look like, all my insecurities. And as I began to kind of decorate and curate and design this space, it was also a place that reaffirmed me, right? So the abundance that I wanted, the next steps I wanted to take in my career, the kinds of friendships that I wanted, and how I wanted to show up for people and how I was going to show up for myself, what kind of rituals I would have, so it was like I was designing a new life in that space. And I think that is part of the power of place, that it can, these walls, these ceilings, these containers, these structures are not simply just places where we go to sleep, eat, and Netflix and chill. They're more than that. They can be more than that if we hone in on that awareness, if we nurture that for ourselves. And so that's a lot of what I do working with clients through holistic design. It's not just creating the space so that it's beautiful and it looks good. And, that is enough sometimes. Beauty, science tells us that beauty helps the nervous system, helps us to get into rest and digest. It helps us to switch from the sympathetic to the parasympathetic nervous system so that we can really relax. Beauty can do that simply. But I think there's also energetics at work, and that's what I have intuitively tuned into. And then with studying different modalities like feng shui, Vatu Shastra, and there's different ways that indigenous wisdom has been used with objects, understanding objects, honoring nature, connecting with nature, and combining all of those things into a modality to create design that's also uplifting and also nurturing and also honors our soul, honors the spirit of abundance, honors our connection with above and below, below being Mother Earth, our planet, our larger global home. So yeah, I think that is the power of place. And so during this season, and if you're one of those people for whom it's not maybe the happiest time of the year, maybe you're struggling, and maybe you have some challenges during this time, that perhaps I would invite you to tap into your space and think of ways that where you live can reflect to you how valuable you are, your sense of resilience, your strength, your connection to maybe not to people, maybe not necessarily to the community you want to be attached to, but your very presence, the fact that you're here is purposeful, and it means that you are connected to whether you can see it or not, things that are, I believe, bigger and loving and powerful. So that is my story about the power of place. It's not the first time that I've experienced sanctuary spaces that have held me, that have helped shape me, and that have reflected abundance, self-worth, love, community, magic back to me. But that is one of the stories I can think of immediately. And in this season, my heart goes out to those who may be in similar situations. And I like being home, whether I'm with a partner or not, but I have curated a place that it feels so good when I'm here. And I look at the books, they reflect, my interest and the woman that I'm becoming. When I looked at the objects, they tell stories of that are supportive, of joy, of things that I've collected, of places I've been. So there's a lot of love here, and it's really uplifting. And so that is the gift, and I think what can make integrative interior design and holistic design a little bit different. So I am going to post a link on the video to the Sacred Space Guide, which is a free resource. And it's also in the link in my bio. Even if you can't do your whole entire home, perhaps carve out a little bit of space, carve out a little niche that's just for you, that is intentional and that reflects back what you need in this season. All right, y'all.